I believe that there's a season for everything that we do, even as magicians. Summer is one of those times of the year where we all take natural breaks. It's hot, we might be taking vacation, the kids are off of school. And I feel the same is true for our magic reading. There's a time and a place for heavy reading, something like a strong magic, a book of theory, scripting magic, homework assignments to teach you how to tighten your show. But summer is a time to relax by the pool, to cozy up in a nook in your house with a good book. Try to beat the heat and enjoy something magical. With that in mind, I thought in this episode of Erudite Magic, what better way to start off summer than to give you my top 10 magic books for summer reading. I am going to put some timestamps down below, so feel free to jump around, but know that after I tell you what the book is, I'll explain why I think it makes for some compelling relaxation time reading. At number 10 on my list, I have Roberto Giobbi's Card College series. And yes, I recognize I'm including the entire series as one entry because it really doesn't matter which one you pick up. I think that summer is a great time to revisit these classic texts like Card College, to revisit the fundamentals. I know that every time I go back to a book like this, I uncover something new, something I missed the first time through. So this is a great set of books to reread. And why doesn't it matter which one? Well, because they all cover different subjects. So peruse the table of contents for each one and decide what facet you might be interested in learning more about. Add some post-it notes or flags to the pages so that you can come back and study them when you're ready. The way these are written, it's great to be able to sit around with a deck of cards in your hands, maybe as you're watching TV or spending time sitting around with family. You can fiddle around and practice certain sleights. And anytime you need to refer to what your hand should be doing, the book is there for you. Let's not forget there are also some really great tricks taught using these sleights in the Card College series, so I don't think you can go wrong. But what good are sleights without some killer tricks to go with it? During the summer, you're likely to spend time with family, maybe visiting grandma with the kids for 4th of July, and there's almost always some kind of deck laying around in who knows what condition. In this business, we call it a shuffled deck in use. And if you want to have some fun with your magic in these situations, you need to know some tricks that use an impromptu shuffled deck. And to me, there's no greater source of that type of magic than Harry Lorraine. Of course, you could choose from all of the books that he's put out over the decades, but I personally like the classic collections because they compile everything into one book. And I've definitely traveled with these books. I'm not going to touch on any specific tricks in this episode. I've done a full review if you want to see that and understand some of my highlights. But Harry has such a conversational style that it makes for perfect summer reading because you feel like Harry, even though he's passed on, is sitting right there with you, instructing you on how to perform some effective card miracles. Oh, and did I mention? None of it's too hard. Speaking of magic that's not too hard, that brings us to number 8 on this list. I don't know about you, but when I'm not working on something specific, I often like to read just for fun. That means that while I want to learn some good magic, I also want to laugh and be entertained in the process. And Steve Beam's Semi-Automatic Card Tricks series does that for me every time. Similar to my recommendation about Harry Lorraine, it doesn't really matter which one you pick up. There are different creators that are featured in each one, as well as different aspects of semi-automatic card tricks. What is consistent is both the ease of doing the tricks, hence the title, Semi-Automatic Card Tricks, and the humor that's peppered throughout these books. Most of the scripts that Steve provides are done very tongue-in-cheek, a lot of dad jokes, a lot of humor involved. But not only that, you're also just going to laugh out loud as you're reading these books. Steve Beam's books are a little more difficult to find. He likes to sell them himself, so you'll have to visit his website to pick up many of these unless you can find some in the secondary market. But I highly recommend them if you're trying to learn some simple but effective card tricks to perform for family, friends, coworkers, or anyone else that you're hanging out with this summer. At number 7 on this list, I'm going to throw you a slight curveball. This is for the more studious or erudite among us. Nevertheless, it's one of my favorite series in all of magic. It's colorful, it's gossipy, it provides insights into past masters of magic. And of course, I am talking about Mike Caveney's Classic Correspondence from Egyptian Hall Museum. If you don't already know this series, there are 4 volumes. They originally premiered in Magic Magazine and were later compiled into these books. The short and sweet version of what they are letters between magicians and someone else. Sometimes it's another magician. They could be fighting about something. They might be gossiping about another magician, or sometimes just sharing secrets. Mike always annotates these books and gives you the context, the explanation of who everybody is, why this is important, and there's all kinds of beautiful artwork included, posters and lithographs of the magicians, stationery and letterhead that they used, shots of their travels from around the world and various aspects of their acts. The beauty of this book for summer reading is that you can read 1 or 2 chapters at a time. There's no right or wrong place to start. There is no continuing storyline. Each chapter stands alone as a short read that's likely to inspire you and certainly help you understand magic history. You can purchase Mike's books directly from his website, mcmagicwords.com. Speaking of history, one of my favorite historical books to read and glean magic from, as well as gossip and other things, is Ted Animan's The Jinx. This was Ted Animan's periodical published in the 30s and 40s, and so you might think that a lot of the magic is dated, and yet so many of these tricks are still adaptable for today's usage. In fact, I just gave away a free trick in my newsletter, the Erudite Magic Digest, that came from the pages of The Jinx. If you're not already subscribed, you can find a link down below and claim that free trick if you want. But when you talk about interesting reading, The Jinx is basically second to none. Reading through it is like reading a time capsule, but one where you can learn some great magic. In spite of what Ted Animan is known for, it's not just mentalism. There are also a lot of really great card tricks, as well as all of the other gossip and things that you come to know and love from Ted Animan. It's harder to get a hold of an in-print version of this now, but you can purchase a PDF download very inexpensively from a number of reputable websites. I know oftentimes during summer, you're hanging out with your friends, and sometimes you just want to make a little bar bet with somebody. Number 6 on this list will help you win almost 100% of those. Now, how you choose to use this kind of power, that's up to you. But if you read Bob Farmer's Flim Flam Conglomeration, it's not exactly a portable book. It's thick and heavy, but it has so many different stunts, bar bets, and magic ancillary type of effects. There is some great magic in there, but as I pointed out in my review, I think that this book is a great change of pace for when you're trying to do some magic and everybody's trying to guess the method. It's pretty neat to mix in some kind of bar bet that you can win, and by winning, show them how it's actually done, thus fulfilling their latent need to understand what's happening. The book covers all kinds of props. There's stuff with cups and bills and dice and coins, just to name a few. If you are interested in knowing all of the details on this, check out the review I did of it here. And number 4 on my list is a creator who is also a writer. Someone who understands how to put together a compelling plot, creating not only devious methods, but also deploying unique props. I'm talking about David Riegel's Approaching Magic. This was one of the early books that I reviewed on this channel, and the reason that I love it so much and think that it makes for great summer reading is that he covers so many different types of magic. He's got stuff for stand-up, he's got stuff for parlor, he's got stuff for close-up, cards, mentalism, and throughout he's interviewed some luminaries in the world of magic to understand what we can glean from them, as well as written his own essays on certain subjects that are important to the presentation of magic. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I didn't want any of this to be hard reading, and that's the beauty of reading something written by a writer. David writes in a very clear style that draws you into the trick or the essay or whatever it is that he's writing about. You could definitely see yourself performing these pieces, and along the way, not only entertaining yourself by reading it, but seeing that you could entertain an audience by actually performing some of this magic. It's not a lightweight volume, so again, it's probably not one you're going to travel with, although I have. The next 3 on my list have something in common. They all have a ton of different magic. But before we get into that, if you're wondering how you can acquire some of these books, or you're looking for ways to add to your library, I want to tell you about the sponsor of this week's video, Don's Magic and Books. Don is an online magic store run out of Minnesota, and he offers all kinds of magic books. Everything from the latest and greatest, like John Graham's Afterglow, to older books like some of the Harry Lorraine books that were later compiled into the classic collection I was talking about earlier. There are 2 really cool parts about Don's operation. One is that you can find some of these books that you can't find anywhere else. I mean, where else have you seen the individual Harry Lorraine books available? And 2 is he offers everything at incredibly reasonable prices. Even though many of these books are out of print or rare, you're still going to find fair prices on his website, and he even offers free shipping if you meet certain minimum thresholds and live in the United States. I'm going to drop a link down in the description below, so certainly take this opportunity to check out his website and see if there's a book there that's been waiting to join your magic library. All right, at number 3 on my list is over a decade worth of magic, covering all kinds of different situations, props, creators. It's another compilation of a periodical column. I'm talking about Joshua Jay's Talk About Tricks. Now, these 2 volumes are massive. As I mentioned in my review, this is like 15 pounds of magic. Each one of these books will make your legs fall asleep if you leave it sitting on your lap for too long. So there's good news and bad news about this. The books themselves aren't all that available anymore. I think there are a handful of copies floating around the internet right now, but you can get these as an ebook, which allows you to, 1, reduce the burden on your legs, and 2, be able to find what you're looking for more quickly and easily. But the point is, if you're into especially close-up magic, although there are parlor pieces and things that will play for bigger audiences, you're guaranteed to find things that you'll be performing this summer for family, friends, coworkers, or anyone else that's interested in some great magic. Like I said, if you want to know details, specifics about what's in there, please check out my review, but I still think that as an ebook, this makes a great summer read. At number 2 on my list of great summer reading, I have Jay Sankey's The Definitive Sankey. This 3-volume set covers a huge span of his career, and if you've been around for a while, you know exactly how prolific Mr. Sankey has been. Like Talk About Tricks, this covers all kinds of different props and situations, as well as shares a number of different essays that Jay wrote about the subject of magic and life. You can still get this in a physical format, which does make it less portable, so if that's a concern for you, you can also get it as an ebook so that you can search and find things, etc. But whether you have it in physical format or PDF, there's still a lot to like about it, even though not everything in there is a home run. The sheer volume and creative output is guaranteed to give you something to work on this summer. At number 1, I have one of the most fun set of books that you could ever read. And in fact, it's so fun that I forgot to include it on my list of most fun magic books, which was a terrible oversight. But it is one of my favorite sets of books, and there's so much performable material that I've performed and I know others have performed constantly from it. I'm talking about Paul Harris's Art of Astonishment. This is again a compilation of some of the previous books that Paul Harris wrote, as well as additions and updates when they were published. And it's focused a lot around close-up magic, but there are fun items covering all kinds of props. And it's written in a tongue-in-cheek style that Paul Harris is well known for. If you can't find something in here that you want to perform for people this summer, you're probably just not trying hard enough. Well, that does it for my list of books that I think make for some great summer reading. Sound off down in the comments below with what you plan to study this summer, or even what you've traveled with before. As always, my friends, I appreciate you watching, and until next time, keep reading.